And now I am really excited to welcome to the stage Greg Vanderheiden. I hope I pronounced his last name correctly, who's with the College of Information Studies at University of Maryland and is going to share with us some interesting, a really innovative open platform and some things that we can think about to help ourselves, our families, our clients better access technology. So Greg, first off, thanks for being here today. Real excited to jump into this discussion with you. But before we do that, let's get to know you a little bit better. Tell us a little bit about your background and what led you in this direction to be involved in this interesting project.
Well, this is actually my 50th year working on, I started out in technology and disability 50 years ago when I was tricked into going out and seeing a young lad who had cerebral palsy and couldn't speak or write or type or had any means of communication. He had a piece of wood, they would burn the letters into it. And then he would slowly, about 1 or 2 seconds per letter, point things out. So I quit my job, joined with a group of students, and we started working on a solution that just kept growing over the years. We finally named ourselves the Trace Center, and you all have our technology in your computers. If you go into the ease of access or the accessibility or whatever settings on a Mac or a PC or your iPhone, etc., you'll find all sorts of features that were developed at our center, and we just license them royalty-free out to all these companies.
Wow.
So when you go to the airport, the accessible check-in stations and stuff, all of that stuff came out of the group.
Oh, that's amazing. Man, 50 years is a lifetime in the world of technology, but this is, I had no idea. So yeah, I'm a little bit shy. It's like, whoa, we've really got a pioneer here on the discussion. So Greg, let's just dive in and
well, as I've gotten older, I decided to stop doing things for others and to do things for myself. So I focused on what we can do for aging so that when I get to the point where I no longer am able to handle this stuff, that it's a lot easier for me. So my concern has really come in that the society is shifting into one where you have to use technology. And if you can't, you're out of luck. And yet, several of the people using the technology will be showing. One of them was a physics professor, and now his son has to call him every week, an hour before their Zoom call on the phone, and talk him into getting onto the Zoom call. And he does that every week. He's been doing it for months, and every week he has to call him up again early and slowly walk him through, because although he was, crackerjack, as we get older, our mind crystallizes. And the interesting thing is they have something called crystallized intelligence. And that is, we can be sharp as a tack and we could teach people how to do stuff that we knew, but we can't learn new things. And it's a very, very frustrating thing because they keep changing everything on us. From 1 month to the next, you go to try to use your television set and somebody decided to redesign how your Apple TV, Roku, whatever it is, works. And everything moved around and nothing works the way it did last. And even those of us who eat, sleep, and breathe technology, we can't figure out how to do things sometimes. We just give up and watch whatever we can find because we can't figure out where the series we were watching yesterday was. Well, as we go forward and they keep changing things, then all of us are subject to the fact that we need to have something that's going to be stable, that's simpler, and it needs and has no boundaries. But I also want to introduce something else, which I call Digital Affinity. And Digital Affinity is basically the ability to learn and use technology. And it's not IQ. As I said, I know people who are blazingly brighter than I am, who can't use their technology. Um, and but I can. Does that make me smarter than? No, as a matter of fact, I wish. So it's not digital illiteracy either, because we have another of the elders that we were working with is as a computer science professor, and he wrote compilers that you actually use to compile software. And but he has the same situation now where his family needs to call him up each week and get him onto the computer, because the things change and because he has this trouble now learning all of this new stuff. So digital literacy is a skill, but digital affinity is a talent. So it's like singing or athletics or artists. Some of us are natural, some of us are okay, and some of us just can't do it at all, okay? And if we can't do it at all, then, like, my church pays me to not sing. I'm not kidding, but to give you an idea how bad my singing is, the other day I was singing something and Kate turned around, my wife turned around shocked and looked at me and said, "You're singing in tune." So, it's got to be really sort of exemplary to have that happen. So if I had to sing for a living, or sing to get my mail, or sing to do my job, or sing to talk to my friends, I would be in trouble. And yet that's what we're doing. We're designing a world where if you can't use a computer and you can't use the technology and you can't have it, you can't keep up with it always changing on you, you're basically going to be out of luck. Job, social, interaction, emergency, talking to the doctor now. So that's what, when we saw this coming, we really started focusing in on, we have to figure out how to make the computer simpler. We've got to figure out how to make it so that you don't have to learn, that you don't have to dig around. And then they'll say, well, there's a whole bunch of things that are built into the operating system and they're just in the control panel. Well, people are afraid to go into their control panels if they can even figure out how to go into them. So if you look at the slice, there's some of us, that it's really easy for, it's just natural. Some it's just in the middle of the road. And then some people it's really hard for. But let's just focus on that last 5%. We're going to ignore 95% of the population and look at that last 5%. That's still 1 in 20. That's a lot of people to not be.
There's a lot of people on this planet too. And yeah, that number is a big one.
It is. And are we going to just say, well, that's okay if they can't use the technology, that's their business, or they're just not paying attention, or they just don't care. And that's just not true.
Yeah, as you were speaking, I often bring this conversation up, and because I know both of us and many people in our audience remember the world where there was no curb cuts, like there was no curb cuts, and so somebody with mobility issues, could not get over the curb without somebody helping them. Just like the example that you brought up of the gentleman that helps his dad get on the Zoom call. Yeah. Now there's not a place that I know of in this region where you can't roll into a location because we have curb cuts everywhere. Now, your analogy is like I could roll into a health club and at least I can get in there. I might not be an Olympic athlete in that health club, but at least I can get in there and I can participate. And I never thought about it with technology, but the comparison is somewhat similar.
Matter of fact, in 1979, 1980 is when I first introduced the idea, the concept of a digital curb cut. So it's interesting.
Okay, well, I'm glad that I'm on track with that.
Yeah, you are.
And Beth Barrett says, I've known of the Trace Center's work for 30 of those 50 years. Professor Vanderheiden is indeed a pioneer. And I'm glad I want to reference this before. I don't mean to cut you off. I want you to jump into this, but I want to remind the audience that you all can engage through chat and through Q&A. And actually, Professor or Greg, We've already got a question, and somebody asks, any advice on simplifying the Lyft app? My husband with language disabilities, aphasia from stroke, has some issues getting through on the app for a ride. We don't need to address that question now, but I want the audience to sort of know you can ask questions and give you a glimpse, Greg, at what's on folks' mind.
So I'm going to show you something later, and I might be, and I have never tried it with Lyft. If we have time at the end, I might actually try something live. People say you're crazy to ever try and do that, but that's what life is about. And if not, then I'll look into it afterwards and I'll write to you. But I'll bring this example up later. I may have something that might work.
Great.
To try it. So the low digital affinity, for example, we had one person, and we said he would say, well, why are you doing it that way? And he'd say, well, because that's the way I did it last time and it worked. They have no idea. If something works, they just do it the same way. They may do something through 20 steps that you can do in 3, but they just know that it worked when they did these 20 steps. Sometimes they're like 3 things that don't do anything to do with it, but they after these 20 steps it worked, and so they write it all down. Superstitious behavior, we sort of call that. It's just, it worked, I'll do it again. We had one person at a job center where there are like 20 identical stations, and he came in and stood behind someone who was using one, and there were only 5 of them being used, and he stood behind this person for 20 minutes, left, came back a couple hours later. When it was empty, sat down and used it. And we went up and asked him why. And these are literally identical all the way down to each sign next to each one in each little cubicle. And so he said, why did you want to use this one? He said, well, because I could use this one yesterday. And we said, well, they're all identical. He said, I don't know about that. All I know is that yesterday I could use this one. And so that's what I was going to do. People who in a library, we asked them what a problem was, and they'd say, well, people will come in with a USB, a little memory stick, with their resume on it, and they'll plug it in the side, and then they'll go look for a librarian because they have no idea how to find that document on that on the stick. And it's actually kind of complicated if you think about trying to explain it to somebody. We had somebody who was teaching in class in English and on the computers, and after spending 3 classes just going around trying to work with one student at a time, getting them to work with the computer, etc., she finally printed it on a paper, gave him a marker and a red pen and a yellow highlighter, and told him to just go ahead and mark it up that way and then put it through the scanner because they had to turn it in digitally. And then the last one is we've just been afraid of how many people are afraid of breaking their computer. We heard it in the job center, and we said, oh, well, that's just that. Then we saw it in the community college. These are supposed to be all of these people that are digital natives. But see, digital native just means that you've been around the whole time. When I started out my work, I was in college, and they still didn't invent the microprocessor yet, okay? So I've grown up with the technology. Other people are born with it from young. But that doesn't mean they have digital affinity. Just because you're born at the same time that people have basketballs doesn't mean that you're going to be a natural athlete or that you have any talent in using basketball. In grade school, I couldn't make the C team because I couldn't throw the basketball high enough to reach the hoop. And I was not going to be a basketball player. I was a little guy. We really need to keep in mind, and if you have trouble with technology, welcome to the club. Those of us who write the software, write the computer software you're doing, we also struggle with it, and we talk to each other to try and figure things out. So if things don't work for you, go look for a solution. It's not you, it's the technology. And that's like saying, well, what if I'm one with low digital literacy? That's like being short and thinking it's your fault that somebody designed something that's 6 feet in the air, all right? Mm-hmm. If it's 6 feet in the air, it's the crazy person who designed it to be 6 feet in the air, and it was for everybody. You can't have a fire alarm that's 6 feet in the air. They actually had to pass laws to make sure that their fire alarms were within reach. There's a standard for how high they can be, and they can't be any higher because otherwise, that's inconvenient. Let's put it up higher. Kitchens are terrible. So it's not your fault that somebody designed something that's out of your reach. but go talk to people, try and find a way. And that's what we're trying to do, is to figure out how to do it. So Morphic is an open source tool. It works on the Windows and Mac. You can either use it just right out of the box to do some things, or you can configure it to be nicer, or you can configure it to for other people to make it so it's even easier for them. We'll look at all of those kinds of things. But it does a couple things. Now, if you need to use an assistive technology like a screen reader, or if you have some type of more classic disability, it's really good with that, but I'm not going to talk a lot about that today. I will just say that if you know somebody who has a disability who uses assistive technology, one of the things that Morphic can do is allow you to have that technology move between computers. So you can set up one computer and then you can go to any other one. So if you set up the one at home for somebody and then they want to go to the library, and they have Morphic at the library, and it's free, so there's no reason the library shouldn't put it on all their computers. You can sit down to any computer there, and then their settings will show up on that computer. When they get up, they go away, so that you can make it that when you sit down to a computer, it will set up for you. And this is really nice because one use of this, and this is not just special software. This is all of the stuff that's built into the computer. So one example we had is a woman who came in, and we were doing a different kind of a study with something. And one of the things we always do is to ask them about their technology background. And so he said, do you use a computer? And she says, well, I used to use a computer. And I said, what did you use it for? And she said, oh, I used it for email and picture sharing. And we Zoomed with each other. And we even had a Facebook group with my friends. And I said, you said you used to, you don't use it anymore? And she said, no. She said, one day I overheard the kids in the other room and they were going, the computer's all messed up for grandma again. And so, I figured I've had my time, this is their time. So I quit using the computer. And I wanted to die. And that was before we did this. And that is another one of the things that really kicked me off. She cut herself off from all of these channels of interaction and communication with her friends because she couldn't set the computer up for herself. And when she was done, she couldn't set it back again because she didn't know how. It was kind of complicated. You have to go in the control panel. And it's all stuff that's built into every computer. But, it was something she wasn't able to do. And until it was set up for her, she couldn't set it up for herself, right? So it's sort of like a suicide loop there. You can't use it unless it's already set up for you to use, kind of a thing. So we tried to figure out how to solve those kinds of problems. So let me just jump to from this and give you a little look of what it looks like. Now, first there's this sort of the basic Morphic bar, and you can see this little chameleon up here.
Share your screen.
Oh, well, I guess right. Oh, I did all of that talking without sharing my screen, so that was not very clever.
You were.
Oh, I had slides and yada yada. Yeah. See,
oh no.
no, but I see. I did that on purpose. I did that on purpose so that you all would realize that it doesn't matter how much you use technology. All of us, we can't figure out how to use it ourselves.
Okay.
All right, so you see the little chameleon in the bar.
Yep.
This is on a Mac, and on a PC it's down here on the bottom. You can see it, and clicking on it causes this little Morphic bar to hide and show. Now you can also, we're making a setting so you can lock it so that it can't go away, because some people might accidentally click the close and then they don't know how to get it back again. So we can make it so it stays open. Now, this is sort of the basic one that you'd find if you went to a library or something like this. But let's just come over here and say that the text is too small. Well, there is an ability to make the screen, everything on the screen larger, but most people don't know how to do it. It's buried in the control panel if you know exactly where to go. But here it's right here. You just click on text size, and it doesn't just make the text larger like in one window. And that's one problem people have talked about, is that everybody tells them, oh, you just hold the command and the shift key, or the command and the control and the plus sign, and it'll make the window bigger. But it only makes this part of the windows. it doesn't make any of the menus or anything else. So if you can't see the rest of the screen, you're sort of out of luck. This actually makes everything on the screen. It just changes the screen scale, and nothing goes off screen either, like a magnifier. So you can make things be the size that you want them to be. Okay. Now, if there's something that you want to see in particular, like, okay, I can read it, but sometimes I just can't make things out. There's a handy little magnifying glass. You just click and up pops a magnifier, and then you can go around and look at anything in any detail you want to. And the mouse still works. So if you want to go up and find that view history, you can go up and then just click on it. Okay. And there it goes to the view history. If you want to go back to reading, you can go back to reading. And then when you're done, you just come back down and click on the hide and it goes away. If you want to copy something, you can just use the snip tool. Again, this is built in, but most people can't find it. And so I can take a picture of this, or if I saw a picture on this the web and I wanted to share it with my family, I can do that, paste it into an email. And so now you're an instant expert because you can take a picture of any part of the screen. I don't understand what this means. And you say, don't understand what means. And you just click and you'd say, it says, hi reader, blah, blah, blah. Why is this in the middle of my screen? Copy it, paste it into an email and send it to your someone else to try and do something, or instructions you find for somebody who's having trouble doing something, whatever. If you have trouble reading, some people have a reading disability. Some people, it's just too small. Sometimes it's just tired. If you want to have something just read, you can select it, and anything you select and then click.
A banana is an elongated, edible fruit. Botanically, a berry 1, 2.
Okay. So, and it'll have it read to you. And this works not just in one program. Actually, Microsoft has a read aloud feature built into their Edge, Word, OneNote, and they're all from Microsoft, and they all work differently. So that's really great. You've got read aloud, but it's going to be different every time you try and use it. So in this case,
Greg, on that one, I really have enjoyed the read aloud feature, but it's hard to find. And like you said, it's different on all apps. This is really cool where you've got this one universal dashboard or user bar. What do you call that Morphic bar?
we call it the Morphic bar.
Oh, okay. Geez, man.
We should have had you on our naming crew. We would have saved us all this time coming up with the names.
Yeah.
It's called the Morphic bar is called the Morphic bar. All right. And for people who have trouble, you can change the contrast, and on the PC, you can do more than you can on the Mac, but you can actually give it with yellow on black or black, if you really want to do it. If you have color blindness, you can make it so that, let's go to the color blindness. You can make it so that you just click and it changes all the colors to make things easier to see if you have color blindness, especially if something is color coded. And if you right click on it, you can go into settings. You can right click on any of these and it drops you right into the control panels exactly where you need to be. And you can pick the kind of color blindness that you have. And then from then on, whenever you click, it just turns on and off with that color. And dark mode and night mode. Some people like night mode, you can't see it, but everything on my screen just turned yellow. And some people find that that's less eye strain, et cetera. And as I said before, there's more things. People who can't find the pointer, you can come up to more settings on the computer and you can go to pointer size and again, click, and it drops you right into the control panel where you can make this pointer be, really small. I keep mine big because I like it big, but you can make it small or you can make it, large to be whatever size you want. As you can see, as I'm changing in here, you can see it changing size. And then you can close it. So things you use a lot, we put down here. Things you use only once, we'll stick up here. And there's a whole bunch of settings, mouse settings, keyboard settings, and all the accessibility. People have trouble with it repeating when they don't want it to, can click down here and it turns off the key repeat. And there's more settings. There's settings for translation and things like that as well that you can get by just going to more settings to make the computer easier. If you click on other resources to make the computer easier, it takes you to a web page and talks about all about it. And if you set yours up, you can save your setup. And then when you go to any other computer with a Morphic on it, you can just apply your saved setup and it'll set that computer up the way you want. And then when you're done, it will go away. So these are all things in the basic. Now, we also have the ability to create custom Morphic bars, and this is really powerful. So I've made some, so I'm going to come up and I'm going to switch my Morphic bar. And again, you can have as many different Morphic bars as you want to. I'm going to click one that comes up and gives me just a really simple Morphic bar. And now you can set this up for somebody where you click and it just takes them to the family photos. So let's say you have someone like the people we talked about before, and they can't use the computer. Or you have a friend and you try and introduce them to all the wonders of the computer, and they say, go away. That it's just something they can't handle. You can create a custom Morphic bar like this and just ask them, what are the things they want to have, and they can have it with one click. They want the weather, they click and they get the weather. They love woodcraft, they can click and it takes them to the woodcraft. And you don't have to say what a browser is or a program. Try and explain what a program is to somebody. It's really hard. Then you got to close one program and open another program, and then you got to type the URL into the address, and there's a shortcut in the shortcut bookmarks bar, and they're all going, what are you talking about? With this, one strip down the side. They want to make a family Zoom call, they click. And it doesn't just take them to a thing, it drops them into the call, okay? It doesn't launch Zoom, it literally drops them right into the Zoom call. So one click and they're in the Zoom call. One click and just wait, and it does it, and bang, they're in the call, all right? Same thing for making a Skype call or something. You can make it so that they click, and instead of launching just Skype, bingo, it pops up and you're all ready. They can turn on the camera or not if they want to, depending upon whether they have their bathrobe on or not. And when they decide what they want to do, they just click start the call and they're in. So there's no, having to fish around or figure it out or launch it and then launch another thing and then figure out that you then have to find the name and then you have to click on the thing in the corner and then you have to select call. And that's just too far. Bing, they're in. They want to see a streamed worship service. Click and they're watching the streamed worship service. Again, family photos, woodcraft, stream service, mail. You can make it, do anything you want to just by jumping back and forth by clicking the button. It's sort of like a push button radio. Of course, nobody here is old enough to, oh yeah, you are. We're old people. So we know what push button radios are. I talk to young kids and they all look at me, what's a push button radio? Aren't all radios push buttons? I mean, everything is push button today. You just have what you want. Text size, read selected, get help. And let's say they say, well, I can call capable. I've got like 5 or 6 people I want to be able to call. Well, that's fine, because if you have more than fit on the bar, you can just click on this little arrow and you can have more. Call Maria, call Marie, Pinterest, magnifier, anything else that you want to have. So if it overflows, and you always start off with just a few things. And then as they ask, they say, well, can it also do this? Like the question is before. Can you do, now I'm blocking, at the beginning of the call, they wanted to lift. So
lift.
we'll see if we can actually craft ourselves into creating a lift button.
Well, actually, and I'm not trying to cut you off. We've got questions are coming in, but this may relate to the lift question. Is Sarah asks, does this also work on cell phones? Many folks are now primarily connected to their phones.
Yeah.
And I believe Lyft and Uber are sort of app-based platforms, but I'm not 100% positive on
yes. Now on the new Macs, you can run the apps on the computer. But here's the problem. We can do this on Windows, we can do this on a Mac, but the security system in order to protect you, they created a different kind of an architecture on the phones. And in that architecture, no app can affect any other app. So here I'm launching the programs and stuff like this, and I can do that. But on a phone, you can't do. I could do a couple things like these links where you click, but you can do that with a sort of a bookmarking kind of technology, which could show you separately. But you can't do the things like land them in a call, and you can't create a bar like this that can change settings on other ones. The only people who can do that are the companies themselves. So Apple, Google, et cetera, could do that. And we're talking to them about doing this. It's a little bit of it's like, oh, well, we already made it simpler. Like we've already made it so that if you come up here in the corner and you click on this thing, you can come down and you can click
Yeah.
on accessibility, so brightness or whatever. But again, it's different for someone to say, well, there's a little bitty thing here that you click and there's a thing you click and then there's a thing you can click and then you can do something, to something where it's just right there in front of you. So we
Yeah.
are going to be talking with them about this on the mobile platforms, but currently we can ourselves, without them stepping in, we can't do it on the.
And I think this is really a great point to this discussion is that Morphic and this platform that you've created, this is not a for-profit company. This is an initiative that's open source. And is it free to everybody, or how does this work?
Well, excellent question. So let's first of all, let me show you how to create a custom Morphic bar, and then we'll loop back around to the next because they're sort of related. So if I want to create a custom Morphic bar, let me just sign in here. So here's a bar.
Okay, so the first step is go to morphic.org.
No. It's custom.morphic.org to get to this tool.
Okay.
All right. And so then I can, let's say I want to create a bar. So I'm going to create a new bar for grandma. So you got an empty bar, and over here you got a list of all the different kinds of things that you could have. So I want Gmail, and then I want to have a Pinterest, and she really liked that read selected feature, but let's put that read selected feature. And she's colorblind, and so then she wants to have a Skype, but let's see, I'm going to make it so that it can call me. There you go, everybody. You can see my. There you go. Now you know how to get hold of me. So it's a type of call. We'll make it a video call, and then you can put anything you want to on the button. So you say Greg. And if you want the Skype, you can have it. If you decide you want to have more buttons, you can remove the image and you can change it to be a color. It's my red letter day, and then bingo. So now you have a button that easily that you've made for someone. They click on it and it will immediately Skype Greg Van Ryden.
Now, would you, when you say you're doing this for somebody, this would be coming to their computer?
No, that's a really excellent point. So
okay.
I have now created this bar. I just click save bar, and you invite it to them. You send them an email, and it shows up on their computer. And if they call you up tomorrow and says, "Oh, would you add another button?" You can just go and add a button. Let's say they want to have a custom. They want a button to go to knitting.com. Let's see if there's a knitting.com site. Yep, there is. So we'll just write knitting. And we'll get rid of that image, and we'll make it green, and we click save, and then I push, and now that just shows up on their computer, just like that. So when they on their computer, they'll see a little knitting button show up on their computer. So you can set up a computer for somebody when you're on the opposite end of the country from them, and you can make changes to their Morphic bar. They just call you on the phone and ask you. If they can do it for themselves, then they could get their own subscription. When the Morphic itself, the bar that you saw here, the basic Morphic bar is free. So, and it's free to any library or anybody who wants to use it. The custom bar, there's a subscription that we're going to be setting up because we need to be able to pay. It's all being done by a nonprofit called Raising the Floor. The problem is we have to be, if everybody's doing this, people are going to have questions and they want to call in and ask for help or write in or chat or whatever. We need to have somebody at the other end. However, if somebody said, well, I want to set this up for all of my people in my organization, and I'll provide all the technical support to that, then we've done this for universities where they're going to provide the support, and we've been providing it for free. But if you do it, it's like $35 a year or something like that, I think, for the subscription for it. And with it, you can create as many bars as you want to for yourself. I've got 5 of them here. And then you can create bars for 5 other people. So, it's really, that's, what is that? That's a,
Great. No, this is great.
Very
We got a ton of questions that are coming in.
well, let me answer the one way that you asked, and then we'll go to questions. All right.
Okay.
If you go to just morphic.org, that's the website. Oops. Morphic.org. There we go. And it tells you all about it and all the things it can do. And then you have features, and you can see the features in the basic, and then the plus subscription, and then there's a free version that any enterprise can have. And then they can get lots of additional features if they want to. And it costs whatever it costs. So you say, how much does it cost? And they say, well, what is it that you want? So we're just trying to do this. One of the questions people ask is, how can you offer this for free? Are you selling my information? And this is really important. Your information, first of all, we don't get any information that isn't needed for operation. For example, if you want to have something that opens a website, someplace in our system, it stores that website, but it's all encrypted, and it doesn't go anywhere except it's just used to tell your computer which website to open. We actually have a privacy council made up of privacy advocates and experts from all over the world that oversees everything we do. No information is shared with anybody at any time. No information is used for advertising. This is completely private and secure. It's the only thing the privacy experts, et cetera, said they've never seen anything that was locked down as tight and had as many privacy kind of restrictions as we have. And so you can use it and be completely assured. We cover this with just donations and grants. So if people want to donate, that's fantastic. But we're always worried about the people who can't afford it, and we want to try and make sure it gets to everywhere. So that's how we can do this, is because of the largesse of people, not because it gets sold to anybody. All right, so you click Morphic, get Morphic, and here you can get it for the Mac or the PC. And right now, I'll tell you, the subscription, you can get it free for life. I said 35 bucks. You guys on the call, you can get it free for life. The ability to make custom Morphic bars, because we're in an early feedback program, and we're just keeping it open as long as we can afford to keep it open, to make it free for everybody.
Okay, great. Yeah, and I'm on that page, and I'm going to fill out that form so I can get it, and hopefully everybody else does too, because this seems like a nice tool to have to make navigating your computer easier. And again, comparing it to curb cuts, it's we all use curb cuts when we're pushing our baby strollers or shopping carts, and and when we have an accident and we're using crutches, it's not just for people that are permanently disabled.
Well, somebody once said, we are all going to acquire disabilities unless we die first.
Yeah.
So you got your choice. You either face the fact that someday you're going to have disabilities, or the fact that you're going to die before you get there. And you can take your choice. But I'd rather prepare for having disabilities, because I want to be around a long time. And if the bar is ever in the way, remember that you can just click on the little Morphe, and it comes and goes as you need it.
Okay, I love it.
Questions.
Well, let's dive into these questions here, Greg. And let me, okay, so some of these we've already answered. So Brian says, how do I get a copy of Morphic? Morphic.org is where you go. can you change the voice and the speed? I guess that was the
Aha.
read aloud.
Absolutely. On the Mac, let's see, read selected. So let me just select some text. On the Mac, it's interesting because when you click on the Mac,
Create custom Morphic bars free for life.
it actually lets you change the turtle and the rabbit, let you go fast, and you can pause,
Life.
start, and stuff like this. On the PC, there wasn't any such built-in feature. Let me get rid of that. But on the PC, if I bring up my Morphic bar, and on any of these things, you can adjust the thing by right-clicking on it. So for read selected, I just right-click and go to settings, and you can see the language. You can do the voice. There's a bunch of different voices.
Oh, nice.
You can change the speed of the voice. Okay. And you can install different language packages if you want to have it read to you in different languages. I have English and Spanish, and so you up here, I can choose the language. Okay, so
Great.
that's that answer.
Yep. And then Brian asks, and again, this was earlier in the discussion, can you customize the Morphic bar? And you've showed us different ways that you can do that.
Let me show you another thing. If
Okay.
I'm showing you how you make personal custom bars. If you wanted to deploy these at all of the one at our university, any place who's deploying it on all of the computers can add 3 extra bar buttons to this bar. So the University of Maryland, they have added these 3 extra buttons on the extra bar: Google Drive, Elms, and Gmail. The University of Michigan wanted 3 different buttons. They wanted their University of Michigan print service, their education system, and Gmail. And then I will go to the AJCR library, and they wanted 3 different buttons. What they wanted was the USB drive. This is, remember I told you about when you plug in the USB drive and you
Yep.
can't find it? We actually have a button that you can just click, and you plug in the USB, you click and it opens it right to the thing. So you don't have to figure that out. And then we also have the ability to simplify words. So if I'm going to turn on both of these, there's 2 different special bars that you can add, and I'll show those quickly because one of these is really nice for elders. And you know, this thing normally has 11 different menus with 200 different little icons, but with the basic, this just gives you a bar with just a very simple number of the things you use most. And so if somebody wants to be able to use Word, but it's just too complicated, you could do this very, very simple. It gives you the ability to change the font, the color, and stuff like that.
You know, early in the pandemic, we featured a company that made a smartphone designed for people with dementia.
Yep. Yep.
And they basically stripped it down to the point where it was just like 4 buttons.
Yep.
And I was blown away at how many people were interested in it.
Oh yeah.
And you know, there's 2 things that you've displayed here that I think are kind of cool is, yes, simplifying a complex thing like Word, but also what I really like is these customized bars for various companies. You're showing us academic institutes, but I know a lot of the professionals that are on our call today work for larger companies, and they're accessing Salesforce or, you know, a certain app on a regular basis. This is a great way to sort of, for the company to create an accessible bar company-wide.
Yeah, or you can actually do it per whatever. So for example, if I switch Morphic bar to something at a company, you might have it where you make a different bar for different people, but it has just the things that that particular person needs to have, what they do for their incoming, the knowledge base, how they handle exceptions.
Neat.
They have questions they can click here. So you can make it so that people can do their job more effectively or longer, because you can make all of the things they need to have be at their fingertips rather than having to, you know, shuffle around and where'd that window go? It's disappeared here, there.
Great. Okay, Greg, I see a hand raised, and I see a name that I haven't seen in a while. Cordell, long time no talk to.
I know. I've been working as a consultant for special populations. I was actually on the call yesterday, so I've always felt like this hour of the day is the most informative. I'm so impressed with the different services, and so I'm glad to be back in the fold again. This is a wonderful product, Doctor. I just my question. You had mentioned earlier that if you actually have the remote capability to help someone from a distance.
Yes.
So you don't have to be in the same room or on the same computer. And you showed how you can set it up and then email it to them. So when they open that email and click on that link, those features automatically change their computer, or does there have to be an initial setup for that to work?
Well, there is, but the way it works is let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. I can add a person. So if I were to add Cordell, and then I click add a person. So now I have Cordell, so I can make ones for you. And
Okay.
it says next steps are to do it. And then when you're done, invite a person. So I would do this. I would then create a bar for you. Get whatever buttons you want to have on your bar. Let's see, I'll just grab some random buttons. And then I click save the bar, and it's going to pop up and says, do you want to invite the user? So I click invite now. And then I would type in your email address, and then I would normally I could say who it's from, and I could put my phone number so that the person can call me up and say, what is this email I just got? And you just say, oh, just click on it and follow the instructions. It'll install Morphic on their computer. They have to do that once because it has to be on their computer. And then they sign up for an account, because you can't push something to somebody's computer without their consent. All right.
Right.
So you send them an invitation that explains it all to them, gives them your phone number so they can call you and ask you what it's all about if you don't call them already. And then once you do that, you just walk them through the process, and we give you a copy of the same instructions that we send to them, so you can walk them through it. And all they do is they install it on their computer. And then from then on, it's on their computer. And from once you've done that, then every time they call you and ask you for a different button, you put it on, you click save, and bingo, it's on their computer. It shows up as a new button on their computer. There's no more setup
Right.
other than their first acceptance of it and installing the program the first time. And you can do it all.
So clicking the link doesn't launch it automatically. It just gives them the capability to be able to add it.
Oh yeah, it sends them an email that they can click on, and then
Sure.
it goes through and it tells them what it is and explains it. And presumably you should be contacting them, talking to them, because
Right.
they shouldn't be installing random things they get in the email.
Right.
But it
Okay.
gives them all the pieces, and then you can call them, and it gives you, as I said, a copy. And so you can call them up on the phone and walk them through the one time getting it installed on their computer. And then after that, it's just there.
No, it's wonderful. Like I said, I work with special populations, whether it's seniors or folks with autism. So this is a wonderful tool to be able to use. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Great, and
Good to
great
see
hearing
you.
from you again,
Well,
Cordell.
and please, if you
yeah.
do it and you say, oh, this is great, but what if I really need to do X? That's the most valuable thing in the world. So
Yes.
anybody who sends us a problem, you send us, like, this is nice, but, why didn't you do this? Or can it do this? That's why we have that early feedback. That's why we're giving it away free, is so that people will try it and come back to us. Telling us it's nice, that's very nice. Telling us
Sure.
something wrong with it, that's much more valuable.
Sure, I understand. Wonderful,
Great.
great. This is beautiful.
Thanks, Cordell. Great hearing
thank
from you. Okay, let's rip through these questions, because we're getting close to the top of the hour. If we have to go a little bit long, I'm just reminding folks this is recorded. Okay, let's see here. We talked about the cell phones and tablets. I guess tablets might be a little bit different in that you could be launching something on a browser, correct?
No, well, if it's a Windows tablet that is running the Windows operating system, it is Windows, and so it works fine. But if it's an Android or an iOS tablet, it's the same as an Android or an iOS phone.
Question, so is your customer support people available now to help with questions and setup if needed?
Yes, yes. If you go to here and then you go to problem, contact us, click, and it opens it up, and then it tells you different ways to contact us, and then we get right back to you and help you out. You know, if you have a question, if you have a story, if you have suggestions, and then, but if you need support, you can either click here or you can just fill it out down below and we'll get right back to you and help
Great.
you.
And then Brian asks, will it push bars to Chrome?
No, we're looking at Chrome. It is technically possible with Chrome, and they're very interested. We just didn't get to it quite because these are the platforms that the libraries and you know, we were doing it at universities, but also we're trying to push. We'd like to see this in every library, every computer of every library, and things like that. So we've started with those, but yes, Morphic is on the radar.
And when it installs, it's installing specifically for Mac or for Windows, correct?
Yes, right.
Okay, all right.
And they're both written in native code. They're very small, they're very fast, and they don't use up any resources on the computer, negligible.
All right, let's see. Let me just go through some of the chat messages here and then we'll wrap things up. Krista Kramer said she's from the Idaho Assistive Technology Project. And she says, hi, Greg, seeing you again brings fond memories of the Project EASI days.
Oh, yeah.
And let's see, Shelley, hopefully you heard how.
I just want to say to her, we just had a sort of a congratulation call, celebration call with Norm Coombs, who is still with us. Unbelievable. So.
Yeah, well, hey, you've been doing this for 50 years, so that's a long time. Deb Merrimer says, do you suggest any assistive technology for the blind? I can see how Morphic can be helpful, but any other suggestions?
Yeah, this is completely accessible with a screen reader for people who are blind. And we are actually working on a new feature called Assistive Technology on Demand, so that if a person who's blind sat down to a computer and it didn't have a screen reader on it, they can just do the keystroke to launch Morphic and they can sign in, and Morphic would say, oh, this person wants to use a screen reader. It's not on this computer. It'll go fetch the AT, bring down, install the computer on the screen reader on the computer, set up the screen reader exactly like the one they have at home, and away they go. And then when they get done, it would disappear. So yes, and we have 1, 2, 3 people who are blind, who are actually part of the testing and trying this out continually and making sure that it works for people who are blind.
Great. And then, okay, Betty, you get the gold star today. Greg, just to let you know, our audience is very ageism aware. They're a very evolved audience. And she says, could you use terms that reflect all who experience difficulties? Using grandma and grandparents places the problem on older adults. And I understand why you.
No, that's excellent. I actually had to change my slide set because you have pro aging. So I had to change my, here, I'll show you my slide set. So here's my slide set for the presentation. And you can see here that I have hidden all the slides for all of the other people with all other ages. You can see them on the side.
Yeah.
So I actually, it's so that I actually had to hide all of the other ones, because when I talk about Morphic, I actually, only talk about, digital affinity. I didn't say old age, et cetera, but that's really good. No, I actually changed it all because you were interested in aging. So that's why I'm only talking about aging today.
Yeah, and I think that in terms of terms to use, being a grandparent is a very positive life experience, and it's oftentimes it is a good way to sort of talk about older adults without being disparaging. But Betsy, thank you for that comment. And let's see, okay, I think we got through everything, and it's 1 o'clock. So Greg, thank you for this discussion. And everybody, if you get let's see, a few more things. I love this. Whenever I tell people it's over, then more questions come in. Brian says, thoughts about using on Alexa with touch screens. Alexa is such an accessible device. Have you had conversations with Amazon regarding Alexa's touch screens?
Actually, I'm going to give you a little insight. I'm on the Amazon Accessibility Advisory Council, and every year, Peter Korn and their whole team invite a number of us to, well, it used to be to come to Amazon, but now we do it virtually. And we review all of the stuff that they're doing and products and stuff that we can't talk about because it's coming. And they have just done this amazing job. We spent 3 days going over everything with all of their different teams to try to get it all to be more accessible. And it's amazing how much progress they pick up from each one of those and incorporate into their products. Yes, it's amazing what they're doing, and you can tell that they care because of all the stuff there is.
That's great. And then Michelle says, if we're working with multiple clients at various levels of understanding, is there training for service providers? Is there customer service available to help us train? So like I could see some of the providers in our audience, let's say that they've got 5 clients, helping them, get this set up.
Yeah.
Any sort of training, support, certification, things like that?
Well, we don't have certification. Well, we're happy to work with anybody who's working with groups. There's, I won't name names, but there's a large disability organization that has got 25 different disability employment, VA, programs, et cetera, that's now doing this. And another one that's deploying it. They have offices in 5 states. They work in 32 states, and they've got like 29 different programs all around disability and aging and veterans and et cetera. And they're deploying it for their staff and their clients. And yeah, we're very happy to work with any organization that's doing this and provide you the support that you need to figure out how to use it well within your organization.
This is great. And, I'm so excited to have you on and introducing this to everybody. And my hunch here, I could be wrong, but as you have sort of talked about your project, the Trace project, and how that has, that things that we don't even realize that are in the background of systems that we're using, their origin traced back to that. What you can see is that while right now we're calling this Morphic and it's sort of this standalone project, I can really envision in the near future where this type of accessibility is just automatically blended into all systems that we're using, just like curb cuts at the grocery store. And
our ideal situation would be that it's just installed as an option on the operating systems themselves. That would nothing that, as a matter of fact, we work towards. There's a number of reasons why it's hard for a company to do that, but yeah, to the extent, and a number of the features here you'll see showing up in operating systems as we've been working on this and communicating with them. They'll pull out ideas and build them into their operating system, but we'd love to see this entire thing built right into the operating system. That'd be fantastic. This
is great. Well, thanks so much. I'm throwing your email into to chat there.
I was just going to try and figure out how to get that on there.
We will record. This is recorded. It'll be up later today, and just let's stay in touch. I'm really excited to hear how things go with this project.
Excellent.
All right. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you all next week.